Thank you. Korea and the United States have shared a close link since the U.S. soldiers fighting together during the Korean War 6 decades ago. And this year's security consultative meeting was particularly important for the two allies due to the heightened tensions on the Korean peninsula following the sinking of the South Korean warship Cheonan in March. The two defense officials discussed security issues including the transfer of wartime operational control of Korean forces and how to deal with the leadership changes in North Korea, as well as the commitment of the two nations to ensure the security of Seoul during the G20 summit in November. During the 42nd Security Consultative Meeting, South Korean Defense Minister Kim Tae-young met with U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates in Washington, who said their commitment to ensure security on the Korean peninsula has never changed. The top defense officials concluded their annual defense meeting Friday with an agreement that the two countries' military alliance is stronger than ever before.
Our commitment to South Korea's security is steadfast, and our military alliance has never been stronger. North Korea's nuclear and conventional weapons threat continues to be the focal point of our alliance's deterrent and defense posture. We are committed to providing extended deterrence using the full range of American military might.
The annual security meeting took place at the Pentagon in Washington Friday, where the two defense officials discussed security issues including the Strategic Alliance 2015. The plan outlines the timeline for the transfer of wartime operational control, also known as OPCON, and has set 2015 as the year when control of forces on the Korean peninsula will be transferred to South Korea. Along with a new plan, the two nations discussed a new framework and a defense cooperation guideline. The OPCON transfer was first scheduled for 2012, but Korean President Lee Myung-bak and U.S. President Barack Obama agreed in June to delay the transfer to 2015, following the March sinking of the South Korean warship Cheonan by North Korea.
In the wake of the Cheonan incident, the close cooperation across the whole of our two governments sends a clear message to North Korea that its provocation and aggression will not be tolerated.
U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates said he expects North Korean leader Kim Jong-il's youngest son, Kim Jong-un, to eventually take the reins from his father.
I think we've been seeing signs for quite a long time that the succession was moving in this direction in North Korea. I'm not aware that there's been any further formal indication that he will be the successor, but frankly, that's the assumption that we're all working on, that he will, in fact, at some point take on that leadership role.
Gates' statement follows reports that the North Parliament confirmed Kim Jong-un as the next leader of the communist state. The two defense officials also discussed how to respond to an abrupt leadership change in North Korea and possible instability on the Korean peninsula caused by the secretive succession process.
I think it's a good thing at this point of transition in North Korea that our alliance is, in fact, as both the minister and I have agreed, perhaps the strongest it's ever been.
When the reporters asked Minister Kim if there is a possibility that the South and North relationship could improve, citing the recent agreement between the two Koreas to hold the reunion of families separated by the Korean War at the end of October, Kim said North Korea should first take responsibility for the Cheonan incident.
남한과의 대화를 하려고 하는 시도를 보이고 있습니다만은
North Korea is showing attempts to communicate with the South. However, the South Korean government wants to see the North admit attacking the Cheonan, apologize and take responsibility for the incident. When Pyongyang shows such responsible gestures, the relationship between two Koreas will improve.
The two defense officials said the 42nd Security Consultative Meeting was a success for them to discuss military cooperation and improve their special partnership between the two countries. The military officials also emphasized that they will be closely watching North Korea prior to the G20 summit. With Seoul hosting the G20 summit in November, the two chiefs also said the allies will ensure security during the event.
Korea and the U.S. are discussing the ways to deal with possible provocations from North Korea during the G20 summit, and we are closely watching North Korea's movement.
Minister Kim Tae-young, however, said there has been no unusual movement detected within the north. The two defense officials signed agreements on the guidelines for defense cooperation and the strategic planning guidance, which provide upgraded war plans and more realistic exercises to deter threats to Seoul. They also agreed to set up a joint military committee called the Extended Deterrence Policy Committee to effectively deter threats posed by North Korea's nuclear programs and other weapons of mass destruction.
Well, Nari, they surely had a lot on their plate going into the meeting this year, with all the security issues over the Korean Peninsula, from the Cheonan incident to a possible power transition in North Korea to the security during the G20 summit.
Of course, yeah.
So did the defense chief say anything about North Korea, what their latest next moves might be, and how it might affect us here?
Well, Minister Kim Tae-young emphasized that South Korea and the United States are closely watching North Korea, but so far no major movement has been detected. But Minister Kim also mentioned that since the communist state has never been predictable, everything remains to be seen. But I think the two defense officials were very clear that any provocation will not be tolerated, and they are prepared for what lies ahead in the future.
All right, thank you, Nari, for that report today, and we'll be seeing you again.
Okay, thank you.